KARN, I'm Kevin Miller, and good morning to you, Senator. How are you doing?
Good morning, Kevin. How are you doing?
Doing fine. Check in here. Where are we with health care?
Good question. Obviously, Congress just got back from a week break, and Senator McConnell, our majority leader, has been listening to a lot of different senators who have a lot of different ideas. I think we're going to have a long conversation today at our weekly lunch, and Senator McConnell is going to unveil the new revised bill that is based on that input. Hopefully we'll be able to vote on legislation next week that will make health care a little bit better and a little bit more affordable for most Arkansans. But hard to know exactly where we are until we see new bill text.
Kevin Miller along with Senator Tom Cotton on News Radio 102.9 KARN. Senator, why do this whole thing behind closed doors?
Kevin, I can tell you from my perspective, it's actually been very beneficial for Arkansas and for me. If this bill had gone through either the Senate Finance Committee or the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, I would have had a much smaller role in it because I don't sit on either one of those committees. Neither does John Bozeman. But as it is, since Senator McConnell has kind of taken a committee of the whole approach and had over 30 different sessions, whether they're with healthcare experts or sessions among senators, we get to have more input and more direction in the course of this legislation than we would in those committees. And that's the reason he did that is in large part due to the timing and some procedural situations. But overall, I think that most senators, if they've been at all interested in the matter, have had more say in this than they would had it gone to either of the two normal committees.
Can't argue that. Senator Tom Cotton, News Radio 102.9 KARN. What I would like to ask, though, is why not get experts involved in this? Why not have a discussion about the best way to put this together? It seems like we're at an impasse. There's a struggle with Republicans to get the thing passed. And there is a CBS News poll that said over 70% of Americans wanted this done in a manner that was more open, not behind closed doors. Is this Congress listening to what the American public would like?
Yeah, so, Kevin, on the first point, I can tell your listeners that we definitely have had many experts, key stakeholders involved. We've had that at a group level, so we've had health care policy experts speaking to our Republican Senate meetings. We've had smaller discussion groups with interested parties, for instance, hospital executives or insurance leaders, people who are involved in designing Medicaid programs at the state level. On the second point, I wish that we had done this earlier, and I wish we had more Democrats to cooperate with us. But as it is, there's virtually no Democrat in the U.S. Senate who will be involved in trying to reform our healthcare system and make it better if it touches any part of Obamacare. And Arkansans understand that Obamacare simply has not worked. It's continuing to lead to higher prices and less choice for Arkansans. So it's disappointing to me that the Democrats weren't willing to engage in that kind of negotiations, but that's kind of where we are right now.
Kevin Miller on News Radio 102.9 KARN with Senator Tom Cotton. Senator, there's a problem with Russia. The INF treaty, your statement saying that Putin is not honoring that. Now a new missile included in the National Defense Authorization Act. It's kind of confusing, and if you could, make some sense of that.
Kevin, there's been a problem with Russia going back many decades, unfortunately. Right. This is just the latest version of it. An intermediate-range nuclear forces treaty was signed in the late Reagan administration to not just limit but ban outright intermediate-range missiles that can fly about 300 to 3,000 miles. Those missiles are very destabilizing, very threatening in Europe because they can be launched and impact in just a couple minutes, unlike, say, intercontinental missiles. That's why they were banned. Unfortunately, Russia has been in open violation of this treaty now going back several years into the Obama administration. So what my legislation in the National Defense Authorization Act would do is authorize the creation of a program of research and development into our own intermediate-range missiles. That's consistent with the INF treaty. So it doesn't violate the treaty, or in the treaty, it's simply designed to put pressure on Russia to bring them back into compliance with the treaty. Because one thing that's important to know is that Russia benefits from this treaty more than we do. Why? Because we don't face the threat from those kind of intermediate-range missiles. I mean, unless you assume Canada or Mexico is going to start building them. Russia does, though, because NATO is so close to Russia's border. So Russia should want to preserve this treaty more than the United States does. But if it can keep the United States' hands tied behind our backs while violating the treaty on its own term, of course it's going to have its lunch and eat it too. We can't allow that to happen.
Kevin Miller with Senator Tom Cotton on News Radio 102.9 KARN. Senator, the awful news we've heard today of the KC-130 crash in Mississippi, 16 service members losing their lives. Your thoughts on this one?
Terrible, tragic news, Kevin. My heart breaks for those 16 service members and their families and their communities. We don't have any more details about what happened. Obviously, I'll await that and monitor it carefully. But right now, I just urge everyone to say a quiet prayer for their families and also for every service member who's defending our country or training to do so. This today is a reminder that they live lives full of risk on our behalf, whether they are overseas or whether they're conducting training here in the United States.
Senator Tom Cotton, thank you for being on.
Thank you.
Have a good day. 746 News Radio 102.9 KARN.